Hi everyone, it's Louise here, and I am here to talk to you about a pesky little hormone called cortisol. So this is your stress hormone. Now, if you're thinking stress, that's got nothing to do with me, then continue listening because that's what most people think and most people are wrong. So, there are many hormones that have a really big impact on your body and how you burn and store fat. And if you've listened to anything I've previously said, then you've probably heard me say before that it doesn't matter how little you eat and how much energy you burn. If your hormones are imbalanced, then you're going to see very little progress, and you're probably just going to see rebound weight gain as soon as you relax. So getting consistent, sustainable weight loss all hinges on you balancing your hormones. So today we're particularly talking about cortisol, which is your key stress hormone. And the reason why we're talking about this is because what cortisol does is it basically disrupts your blood sugars. So cortisol is basically a stimulant, and what that stimulant does is it increases your blood sugar level so that you've got energy to respond to whatever the stressor is. Now, most people that struggle with cortisol have chronically elevated cortisol, or it might be that it's elevated at the wrong times of the day. So if this is happening, then that disrupts, as I've said, your fat burning and fat storage, but it also disrupts your sleep, your energy levels, your cravings, your moods, and many more things. So as you can see, getting your stress hormone cortisol balanced is really critical. So let's talk about what this stress might be showing itself as, because plenty of people will be thinking, I'm not stressed, no, I've got a pretty easy life, but you could still have elevated levels of cortisol. So it's not really to do with how much you've got on your plate, excuse the pun, or how much you've got going on in your life. It's much more to do with your perception of it. So, for example, some people will have all sorts of things going on. It could be job difficulties, financial difficulties, family stresses, but actually they're very resilient and they cope with that very well. So they're someone who might not have such high cortisol levels because their perception of that stress and the way they deal with that stress is very good. Whereas there could be someone else who seemingly doesn't have a lot going on, might have quite an easy life, not much to worry about, but actually someone in that situation can still very easily find things to worry about and still feel like they're stressed, or may not even realize that they're stressed, but still have some of the things going on that can push up your stress hormone levels. So that's kind of like psychological stress. Then there's also physical stress as well. So things like undereating, over-exercising, sleep deprivation, these are all things that will push up your stress hormone levels. Having too much caffeine is another one. It's a stimulant. Smoking is another one. So these are all things that can lead you to have too much cortisol in your system, which is going to keep you in fat storage mode. So that's hopefully one thing that you're going to take away from this, is that you don't have to be kind of tearing your hair out and pacing up and down to be stressed. It can come from many different things, and it can be physical in terms of over-exercising, under-eating, or it could be psychological, which is the more sort of well-known stress, such as financial stress and that kind of thing. But it's, in that regard, a lot of that is about your perception of it, and it's about basically how much you worry about things and how well you deal with that stress. So hopefully that's helped you to sort of determine whether you're in this category of someone who might have elevated stress hormone levels. Now, to add another spanner in the works, when you are perimenopausal and your hormones are changing, so what happens during this time is your ovaries start to shut down and your adrenal glands, which are the glands that make your stress hormones, they start to take over the production of your sex hormones, okay? So you've got the shift happening, so your ovaries are shutting down and the adrenal glands are taking over. Now, during this transition, you are extremely sensitive to any sort of stress because your adrenal glands are now having to produce not only your stress hormones, but also your sex hormones. So what that means is that as soon as your adrenal glands are put under any sort of pressure from any sort of stress, your sex hormone production is down-regulated, because to your body, it's much more important to be able to respond to a stressful situation than it is to be able to produce sex hormones and be fertile. So your body will always prioritize production of stress hormones. So if you're under any sort of stress, sex hormone production plummets, the thyroid is impacted as well, and add in that your blood sugars will go skew. So stress really throws things out of balance, be it physical or psychological stress. So that means that when you're perimenopausal and you're struggling to lose weight, there's an extremely strong chance that your stress hormone cortisol has got something to do with that. So it's a really good idea to start taking measures to bring that cortisol level down. Now, there's lots of things that you can do, and it's quite a complex subject, so I'm going to give you a couple of things rather than kind of giving you a whole long list of things and overwhelming you. I'm going to give you a couple of things to start doing, things that are really easy to add into your routine. So, number one, if you are drinking more than, let's say, 1 or 2 coffees a day, you might want to start thinking about bringing that intake down or switching to some decaf coffees, because caffeine is a stimulant. It increases your cortisol level and worsens this problem. So the best thing to do is to just be practical about it, and it might be that you decide you're just going to gradually start cutting down, or you might half the amount of coffee you're having, or whatever feels achievable, but bringing that level of caffeine down is probably going to be helpful. Especially if you're having it in the form of like energy drinks, Cokes, that kind of thing, just get them out. So that's the first thing. The second thing is to start doing some sort of practice that is focused on basically bringing down the cortisol and kind of unwinding your body. So for example, 1 or 2 minutes of deep breathing a day. This has been studied, and it's enough to make an impact on your cortisol levels. So this might be something that you do when you're sitting in traffic, or it could be ideally something that you do a bit more intentionally, and take a break from your work and you do just a few minutes of deep breathing right into your belly. That helps to stimulate your vagus nerve, it helps to activate your diaphragm, and it puts you it takes you out of kind of fight and flight mode and puts you into what's called rest and digest. So just a couple of minutes deep breathing is enough. If you have any sort of digestive issues, you'll find this particularly helpful before eating. There's been research on it to show that though people who had IBS or digestive issues experienced much lesser symptoms when they took a couple of minutes to do some deep breathing before they ate. So doing that, ideally a couple of times a day, and doing it as like a preventative, not just when you're stressed, but just doing it every day to build up your resilience, is going to be really helpful as well. So that's the second thing. And then the third thing, and I think I'm going to make this the final thing so as to not make this video too long and overwhelm you, exercise can be incredibly stimulating, and for some people overstimulating if they're doing the wrong types of exercise. Now, this is a big subject that I won't delve too far into, but basically the main thing that we need to make sure is that you are winding down after your exercise. So when you exercise, it's totally normal for your cortisol level to increase. But for some people, particularly those who are perimenopausal or those who are not very resilient to stress, the cortisol doesn't come down again very efficiently after the exercise. So your warm down after your exercise is incredibly important, not just for warming your muscles down and preventing aches and injuries, but also for bringing your cortisol level down and helping you unwind and just bring that stress hormone level down. So, you know, over and above your normal warm down that you do, you want to make sure that you're incorporating plenty of deep breathing, might be some stretching. It might even involve listening to some calming music on your way home from the gym or whatever it is that you do. Really sort of making the effort to slow down, calm down, slow your breathing after your exercise to bring that cortisol level down. So have a think about that. Hopefully there's a couple of things there that you can add into your routine. Let me know if this has been helpful. Give this video a like if it's been helpful and say hello in the comments. If you've only caught the end of this video, go back and watch the beginning, because I was talking all about why this is so important, and you'll see that this is something that's very relevant to a lot of women. So yeah, it's a big thing. So thanks for joining me today, and I will see you next time. Bye.